Good morning, everyone. The seminar is about to start. Thank you, Mr. Romaric. We're very glad to join you this afternoon. Today, we are going to talk about the speech analysis in strategic studies workshops. So far, we have initiated to discuss topics related to our society, companies, nations, and this leads us today to be on the same page with our partners as far as the incorporation, the rational incorporation of our thinkings and of our methods are concerned. In in every aspect of our daily activities, we are called in one way or the other to do some form of analysis. We analyze the, the stare, the smile, and the posture of anyone, of somebody in the course of their discourse, in the course of this discourse, while they doing political speeches, or be it in enterprises. We're sorry, we the the network just broke down a little. It is raining in Cotonou right now. We don't know if the same case over there. At times we are called to make decisions and to decide, to analyze, to think of some aspects that we don't necessarily master at first. When it comes to individual and collective objectives. Today, we're going to talk specifically about the use of strategic analysis in discourse. This title, you can meet this title in different other fields in journalism, in social science, but the particularity here is that we are in a global environment where every decision of a company for the community or the society could lead to a global consequence where whereby it is needed to take a strategic decision. A strategic decision is going to be expressed, and this expression must have the vis-a-vis as the listener or the speaker. The speaker will have some posture that call for strategic analysis, whereas the listener will have to make use of um, his intrinsic abilities to identify the said and the non-said messages, the spoken and non-spoken messages of the speaker. We are then in the strategic analysis concept of the discourse, which makes us to wonder, why do we have to apply a certain number of rules in order to draw from the speech the hidden ideas and the hidden messages? If we all agree in this, if we all agree in this setting on the landscape that we just lay down, then I think we can continue on the discussion of the subject matter. Today, our strategic analysis lab, that is our engine that will serve us to analyze and lead us to the destination that we set for ourselves. We have the professional practice, the professional ability of the analysis of the discourse. It could be on site, it could be online, and we deploy our team to assist the client or the person who needs those service. And why do we need those tools? We need those tools we were talking about the ideal environment, if the ideal settings to deal with strategical analysis. It could be on physical or it could be virtual. It could be from distance or close. And the consultancy agency is supposed to have equipment that is needed for such activities. Such equipment includes uh, system, the system of a database management system. You will need a device to capture pictures and sounds, and then you will have to put in your own know-how. In the laboratory of strategic analysis, in the laboratory of strategic analysis, and the team is usually made up of workers from different orientations, and the most important one is that the field of everyone must be complementary but different. And generally, we request for the presence of a sociology practitioners and people who speak different languages, and so on. You know, we're talking shortly about uh, the use of language. When we started this discussion, and you know that the same the same information does not mean, and information doesn't mean the same thing for English speakers and French speakers at the same time. To move to move on, we're going to define some keyword. We're going to define some keyword of the subject matter. The first one is the decryption. Decryption is the in-depth analysis of a document, of a piece of material, in order to detect its hidden meaning. It goes from the appearance of the speaker, his posture, his diction, in comparison with the habits and the tone and his temperament, and his in comparison with what he is used to showcasing. That is what he used to show it. We compare that. Then a, a, a special attention is paid to his the tone of his voice, his facial expression, and when when it is a public presentation, we may also have to look at the round of applause that he received, and also his conclusions, the way he jumped to conclusion. And it also matters to detect the fake round of applause. In business as well as in political, in as well as in the political arena, the we witness fake round of applause. It is it is so much so that sometimes we wonder if our political leaders are afraid to lose their popularity, or if the maneuver is to get um, an appraisal from their electoral base. So it is very important for us to identify, to analyze the round of applause as well. Still on the keyword, we define the speech. A speech is a voluntary act of influence, of use of the language in a practical situation considered as an effective art and in a relationship with a set of acts of language. The use of the language in practical situation. It could be a language, it could be a story, a dialogue, or a press release. All this leads, it allows the interlocutor to grab the hidden agenda, the hidden intention of the speaker. The strategic analysis. Strategic analysis is it is in the line of the willingness of someone to understand the environment, the nature of an organization or a competition. The competition could be between two individuals, two communities, or two states, or two organizations. In this in this quest, we need the maximum of tools and work. It will lead to the decision making. Decision making, it helps the manager in decision making in the formulation and the implementation of its general policies. An initiative or a commitment. It will also lead to the way this new organization or um, this new practice is that we're about to implement is going to be shaped. The strategic analysis goes beyond the historical framework of competitive analysis, which traditionally limits itself to diagnosis of the competitors. But here, we take into consideration the interlocutor, the environment, and the third component, the, the first component, the third component that we can notice today in the crisis between Russia and Ukraine, that the, which are people who influence the business on the international markets. The predictors, a lot of strategic analysis that come to weigh on the current situation of things that we already have to manage. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Once again, our apologies. We still we once again have the break of the network. I was saying that in and strategic analysis, there is a difference between discourse analysis and strategic analysis. Okay. Um, what's the difference between decryption and analysis? In the speech decryption, we in speech description, we talk about strategic analysis based on criteria that satisfy the objectives of the speaker and political and business. Whereas in discourse analysis, there are three categories of analysis: in enunciative analysis, referential analysis, and argumentative analysis. We also have the topic-based analysis and with discursive and semantic goals. In strategic, in speech description, we have strategic studies, whereas in discourse analysis, there are social and management sides. We can, in order to do discourse analysis, we need to do the data collection, the information, the collection of information. When you're done doing the data collection, you cannot begin the decryption of the information. And this decryption of the information can lead you to the data collection and to the, the compilation of information to that will enable you to make the decision, to assess the impact and the efficiency, to assess impact and efficiency. It will help you to analyze the performance, the strength and the weaknesses. And at the end, we have the strategic intelligence. And the business intelligence, it is still the collection of information to reanalyze and to come up with new ideas and so on. This is what the gap is as far as the discourse analysis is concerned, as far as the discourse analysis and the decryption of the speech is concerned. And the use and actually the the professionals in the field, they they sometimes underestimate the this decryption, the speech description, and compared to the discourse analysis, whereas the objectives are not the same, the objectives are different, and the uses are also different. What are the uses and and purposes of the speech description? It allows us to collect additional information on the business or the activity that is in question. And this technique is useful to compare different different approaches, different speeches on the same subject matter in order to find specific answers in different situations, crisis situations, and also in situation of victories or failures to which there is need to find an issue, find a solution. And we, of course, we know that when there is a victory, we have to do everything we can in order to maintain that standard and continue to improve the tools, the competencies, and the human resources and the equipment in order to make a significant and more interesting impact, in order to progress, be it as far as the figures are concerned or the number of people who are positively impacted, and also the human resources and the volume, the business volume ratio is concerned. And in time of peace, it is the motivation or the satisfaction of the people or the electoral base, whereas when it is in time of war, it is to detect where the slots of tensions lie. Normally, and in any case, a good team, unsuccessful observation of a piece of material or a narration should be in the good position to draw attention, to draw the conclusions, and evaluate. Draw conclusion and evaluate the discourse in order to bring out the final, the final information, the final conclusion, in order to take decisions. The goals of the description of discourse in strategic analysis can be designed as follows. We're going to summarize the objective of the description of discourse in strategic analysis in a diagram. We have two empirical approaches. We have a descriptive approach that we need to put into its context and analyze based on our environment. And that will lead to a discussion based on a critical analysis. That will lead us to the critical approach. And the critics would lead us to asking such questions such as, is that the real idea? Is that the real content? And at that moment, a lot of conclusions are drawn based on the information that are gathered. It could be that the person is closing a deal or opening a new chapter. It Now we're going to talk about the process of the discourse of the speech decryption. We're going to continue with the process of the speech description. Now, we talk about the posture of the speaker, the description of the mood, the faces, the description of voice, the tone of the voice, the fluidity of the speech, the expressions. If you are unable to see the person physically, you may have to make use of other tools, or you may have to guess, to imagine his, and you can make use of different other tools, such as the business intelligence tools, in order to be able to see the picture, to see the person. You will also have to describe the facial expression and the humor of the person. You also have to observe his facial expression. We have to be able to describe the tone of his voice. And if it is possible for you to go back to the archives in order to compare the present or the current situation, the current information the person is reflecting to you, and the one he is known to have, So it is important to be able to detect in the tone of the voice of the person, the sincerity of the speech, the fluidity, the smoothness of the speech, and of his expression, the smoothness of the speech. And it is true that in the school of strategic war, it, the people are trained to hide their emotion in order to to convey the image or the message that they only want the public to get. But you also have to do the description of the way the person is dressing. An example is the Malian first minister, prime minister, when he's coming on TV to make a speech, he never comes with an occidental attire because he is in a dynamic of decolonization. So he dress in local, and he does not, although he's a military person, he does not wear his uniform, but he wears the Malian traditional attire made from the Malian products. It conveys a message that is different from that of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the same country, but who says the same thing, who has the same, who conveys the same information, but that sometimes wears the Occidental, the, the Occidental dressing style, and sometimes the traditional dressing dressing style. Then, so in the laboratory of strategic analysis of the discourse, the process has to take into consideration the posture of the speaker in order to identify or contextualize the performance of the speech. So the strategic analysis laboratories are in contact and in partnership with such agencies in order to carry out these kind of activities. That is the decryption of the speech. It's the same thing. Um, when we when we look at the use of our smartphones, the use of our smartphones for that our smartphones that are used today in order to locate our position, even though you turn on your location, or even though uh, they tell you you read on the social media, especially WhatsApp, for example, that your chat is end-to-end encrypted. You There is always a third party reading your information who has access to the information, and that can be used at any time for the purpose of any any strategic analysis. It's then important to have those information, because those information allows you to compare compare the existing and the objective, to compare the objectives that you are trying to. So the decryption process is put in a diagram. Is put in a diagram of 5 steps. First of all, the first step is to search for trace of argument, words, the words that come back most most of the time. Is the interlocutor using the same words or the same set of words over and over again. It could be a physical person, or it could be a moral person, an organization, or something. You may also have you may also have to follow up with the theme progression, the thematic progression, the use of the themes, the topics, the general ideas. You can see that we are not describing it in order. It is not orderly, because you may need about 15 minutes to make an accurate decision. So you may not have the necessary time to follow all those steps, but when this analysis process is mastered, you can jump from one step to the next, or to the upperness. So then we have to observe the thematic progression. You have to either notice whether the person is either talking about war or if he's talking about uh, uh, the improvement of the influence or the visibility of a company or an organization. And this all depends on how well the speaker have been able to convey the information that they have or they plan to convey in a way that people, the listeners, are not tired of listening to the same things or are not exasperated by what they hear. There is also the reference alignment of the discourse, political or social life. Here, the listener is likely to classify the speaker into a category, into either category of a pacific or a patriotic person. When you listen to such discourse, you are able to identify where the speaker belongs to. For example, today many serious countries try to take care of their national or regional organization or enterprises in order to make sure those organizations or enterprises arose and in order to be more competitive in the marketplace because we are in a global competition, because we are not far from the economic war. We are already in war, but the economic war is coming in full force and it's going to be very bad. How are we trying to equip our political, cultural, and social dispositives in order to sustain, in order to survive such war? So the analysis will have to it will be required to have an ability of an argumentative an argumentative it will have to in the we have to search in the discourse of the person if he makes effort to explain or to elaborate his ideas or to throw more light on his ideas. Here, it is important to note that the speaker is not supposed to jump from one topic to the other. He must elaborate on each topic. So you may have to put in material and historical argument in order to develop social and historical argument. Right now, we're going to switch to a case study. You will watch a video. This is a former minister. Is of this speech happens. This debate occurs early this month in France.
Mais il faut que nous puissions discuter avec l'ensemble de nos partenaires, que ce soit les partenaires européens ou les partenaires africains, sur la manière dont nous allons nous comporter demain pour continuer à combattre le terrorisme. Parce que nous allons
L'hypothèse de
continuer.
rester est toujours dans votre esprit et dans l'esprit de la France?
Nous consultons, nous réfléchissons et nous allons agir dans les jours qui viennent.
Sur quels critères vous réfléchissez?
En fonction de la force que nous avons pour combattre le terrorisme avec d'autres. Parce que nous ne sommes pas tout seuls. Nous sommes avec les Africains, avec le Burkina Faso, avec le Tchad, avec la Mauritanie, avec le Niger. Ils sont combattants auprès de nous. Et nous sommes avec les Européens. Il y a 10 pays européens qui sont présents. Et puis, il y a aussi la communauté internationale.
Je vous poserai la question autrement, Jean-Yves Le Drian. Les conditions de notre maintien dans ces conditions au Mali sont-elles réunies?
Je trouve qu'aujourd'hui, la situation ne peut pas rester en l'état. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle nous sommes engagés dans une consultation pour adapter notre dispositif à la nouvelle donne que provoque la junte au pouvoir au Mali.
Ça fait 9 ans qu'on est là-bas?
Oui, mais on a déjà beaucoup agi.
Il y a énormément d'hommes, d'infrastructures qui sont installés à Gao. On ne déciderait pas de quitter le Mali comme ça prendrait du temps?
De toute façon, si on quittait le Mali, ça prendrait du temps. Mais aujourd'hui, le sujet, c'est comment est-ce que demain, on va continuer à combattre le terrorisme, non seulement au Sahel, mais aussi dans la zone du golfe de Guinée. Parce que
le combat continue, c'est ça que vous nous dites ce matin, mais il peut être conduit, ce combat du Niger, par exemple?
Il peut se passer autrement. On est en train de réfléchir à cette adaptation.
Notamment au Niger? Ce serait plus...
Ça peut être sous une autre forme, à discuter avec les différentes capitales africaines. Nous sommes dans ce débat-là. Il y aura à la fin de cette semaine un sommet de l'Union africaine qui a aussi une position extrêmement ferme à l'encontre de la junte qui est autoritaire, qui est au Mali, qui est en désaccord avec les orientations de cette junte et qui a pris aussi des mesures de sanctions.
Le Mali vous accuse la France d'instrumentaliser les sanctions de la CEDEAO notamment.
La CEDEAO, ce sont des responsables africains souverains qui prennent des décisions à l'encontre d'un pays qui, selon eux, rompt les normes démocratiques qui sont nécessaires dans cette région.
À Vladimir Poutine, vous dites pas pas de plus quand on parle de l'Ukraine et les commandos Wagner restent au Mali.
C'est la décision de l'autorité malienne de s'appuyer sur des mercenaires qui, aujourd'hui, n'ont jamais fait la preuve de leur capacité à lutter contre le terrorisme. On les a vus en République centrafricaine. Ce sont des gens qui font des exactions, ce sont des gens qui se servent directement sur les ressources du pays et qui ont pour principal objectif de protéger la junte au pouvoir.
Quand on voit comment les choses se passent et peut-être vont se terminer au Mali, il y a des gens qui vous regardent ce matin et qui disent 53 soldats français sont morts. Est-ce que cette opération est un échec?
Moi, j'étais ministre de la Défense au moment où les opérations ont commencé et je me souviens du premier mort, le chef de bataillon Damien Boiteux. Et puis, il y a eu récemment le 53e, le brigadier Martin. La France a été au rendez-vous du combat contre le terrorisme, à la demande de ces pays. La France a payé le prix du sang. Et je souhaiterais vraiment que cela soit respecté.
Elle est venue à la demande de ces pays. Peut-elle repartir à la demande de ces pays aussi, Jean-Yves Le Drian ?
Elle est venue aussi, mais de ces pays, parce qu'il n'y a pas que le Mali. Elle est venue à la demande de ces pays, elle est venue aussi en accord avec les Nations Unies. Parce que tous les ans, les Nations Unies, le Conseil de sécurité, mandatent à la fois la force Barkhane et puis les forces des Nations Unies pour maintenir la paix dans cette région. Il serait opportun que la junte s'en rende compte.
La perspective de voir nos soldats rester au Mali, Jean-Yves Le Drian, est crédible à l'heure où on se parle?
La perspective de continuer à se battre contre le terrorisme est tout à fait essentielle.
Au Mali ou ailleurs?
Au Sahel et dans toute l'Afrique de l'Ouest.
C'est dit. En Ukraine, Jean-Yves Le Drian, sommes-nous entrés dans une logique de guerre?
Je ne vais pas vous cacher, la situation est très grave. Il y a des dizaines de milliers de soldats russes aux frontières de l'Ukraine. Il va y avoir dans les jours qui viennent des manœuvres militaires en Biélorussie avec les forces russes et les forces bélarusses aux frontières de l'Ukraine. Tous les éléments sont réunis pour qu'il y ait une intervention.
Un danger clair et imminent, dit Boris Johnson. Danger clair et imminent.
C'est un danger clair et imminent, mais à cette heure, nous n'avons aucune information sur la volonté du président Poutine de passer à l'action. Et donc, l'heure est toujours à prioriser la désescalade. C'est au président Poutine de dire s'il préfère la confrontation à la négociation. Et nous sommes favorables à ce qu'il y ait négociation. C'est possible.
Sur quoi ?
Yeah, during about 8 minutes, we listened to the speech of Mr. Le, and we are able to say that together we noticed that uh, in the space of 8 minutes, we hear him repeating the same word, such as the breakup, and the military, uh, the junt that the military people who overthrow the current power. We hear him repeating, "We fight terrorism in South-Saharan Africa." We hear him, we hear him repeating several times. We are thinking in order to make decisions, since the interviewer asked several times, insistingly, what's the way forward as far as the France intervention is concerned. When he was asked what is the next step that the French army is planning, we hear him coming up with justifications about the international community, the head of states of the countries in the surrounding region. In a nutshell, his speech is roaming about the legitimacy of their presence in Mali and their right to carry out operations on the field. And they try to move us, and he tried to move us with the use of the memories of the many Frenchmen that died on the field. When we look at the historic, I mean, the way the scenario happened, we we're surprised how they are all of a sudden very eager to free the area of Mali from the new government that conducted the coup. Now, in order to move on with the analysis of his speech, we can wonder when Mr. Le is when he's talking, does he have his eyeglasses off or does he have them on? His posture, how does he behave normally during those kind of speeches? What are his postures during those kind of speeches? In the laboratory, in the strategic analysis lab, we had to go back and check different other videos of his on the same subject matter. And when we compare, for example, the time he did his declaration when the former Guinean president wanted to come for the third tenure, he didn't have the same posture, he didn't have the same facial expression. So when we put these different occasions side by side, we notice that there is a difference in his posture and in his gestures. At the end, we try to find out what is this type of maneuver. Is it an intimidation or an international intoxication? Intoxication is the spread of fake news. Yeah, because we have to share the fact that in the same order of idea, there were no there were no less loss in human lives elsewhere than in Mali. For example, in Chad, where there was a military coup. So it is a geostrategical analysis subject. And in order to achieve this analysis, we have to turn the table around and make ourselves in the shoes. We put ourselves in the shoes of the two different um, components. If it was needed to carry out the election 18 months after the military coup, the former the former um, team that was in place would I mean okay, he Mr. Le Drian developed some argumentation. He said it was the Malian authorities that requested for our presence. We can now go and do a search of the argument, the trace of argument, and we will find out that it's true. The Malian authorities at the point made such requests. The word, the most recurrent word that comes most of the time, the most recurring words are the breakup, the the fight against terrorism, and so on. And the reference alignment of the discourse, he made it, he made a political discourse. The thematic progression, he talked about the situation and made the putsch look very big. And then he rounds up in saying that France lost many soldiers. It is true that France played its role, but France has been the the initiator of the situation. If we go deep into this into the matter, we can easily find out that he was not right on the claim that he was made. They are not doing that only for the Sahel, because if the Sahel is taken, the French culture is going to collapse. So they are not helping them alone, they're helping themselves as well. And the sustainability of the investments would be at stake. So today we are in a situation where every speech, every discourse that we receive must be decrypted in order to know what are the things that are not said, that are unspoken, but that meant a lot. to finish this presentation, I I will say that in order to create the breakup in the starting block of Burkina Faso, Mr. Ludrian has who has been part of a certain number of administration, who has participated in a certain number of governments, is aware that there is need for new political party charts in the sub-region, particularly in Togo, in Lomé, Cotonou, in Ivory Coast. There are a lot of specialists that are trying to pick up the pieces of the puzzle in order to put in place a very accelerated dispositive of very accelerated dispositive of very accelerated dispositive of system. Today we are on the 26th of May, and I think in the nearest future we are going to do the description of all the analysis in the different strategic analysis labs of different information to know if the influence of the war in Russia and Ukraine is not destabilizing the system. And I promise you that in the next 60 days I think in the next 60 days, we may witness another putsch in Mali. We're going to stop here, hoping that we're going to meet again very soon. Thank you. We have a few questions of the participants. We have some questions of the participants. What are the objectives? What is the objective of the conference? The objective of the conference is to create awareness of such tool in order to allow people who are in such field to know how to use them. What is the discourse? What is the usefulness of discourse in our daily life? It is what we use. We use discourse in everyday activities to convey information or to convey to say things that openly or in a non-verbal way. I wish that at the end of this presentation, we built up little strategic analysis workshops, little many strategic analysis teams, because I used to say that every one of us is part of a strategic analysis unit, a strategic analysis lab unit. how to decrypt the political discourse, we talk about it. We may have other opportunities to talk about it in a more detailed way. What is the difference between strategic decryption and simple description of a discourse? I can say that a simple description of a discourse could refer to the use of the language of the person and uh, the basic use of information such as the voice populace in order to gather common information. Whereas strategic analysis goes into depth of the information in order to bring out uh, hidden information to make use of it by those who initiated the decryption for further decision making. How to improve? How to improve? In order to improve, you need to work hard, and you need to practice. You need to break up with the traditional bondage of backwardness. With our intellectual capacities and our instincts, we we have the possibility to make the difference. How is the strategic political and how is the political and strategic um, practices in the francophone countries and the anglophone countries? How are they different? This was not the subject matter of our discussion today, but it is worth understanding that francophone and anglophone countries are different, and the contexts are not the same. The last question, biotechnology, health biotechnology and food agroalimentary biotechnology. This question does not have anything to do with the subject matter, but yes, there is. I hope I answer all the questions. Thank you very much. Now I hand the floor over to you in order to round up. Thank you, Professor Aib. We learned a lot, this evening, although there are some questions that were off the line. It was in my, I wish to display those questions because I wanted to reflect the center of interest of the, audience. If you are interested in getting more information on these topics, visit our websites of IRGIB Africa Online Campus. between the 25th and the 29th June 2022. We have a summer school. As you can see on the screen, with a lot of courses and case studies, some group discussions, and the materials are going to be made available to you. The fee is normally 300,000, but the first who will register will get a 50% discount. They will get it. They can register for 150,000. Thank you very much. Thanks for your participation. At the end of the seminar, there's going to be a satisfaction survey in order to get your opinion on this afternoon's experience. Your answers are going to enable us to improve our service. Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon. Thank you. Bye.